Welcome to Tibalt's Apprentice. I am joined by a guest, Captain Waffles. And what we're going to do here today is we're going to jump into basically just jump right into the fire. We're going to jump into a topic that we don't normally cover. I try to keep things light and positive. And we're going to jump into the subject, though, of proxies, which could potentially be a firestorm is what I'm expecting. So we'll see how this goes. Love them, hate them, what have you. We're going to talk about that and see how we both feel about them and maybe talk about a few different things here. So let me just jump in and say, what are your thoughts on proxies?
So I'm kind of that person who loves and hates them. I think they're really good for the game, but I also think they're really bad for the game. It depends really just like the context of what they're being used for is part of the reason why I like them. So like if you're a super casual player and you want to kind of feel your deck out and learn how it works and you want to proxy the cards before you buy them, then I think that's okay to like kind of play around and get the feel of it. But the part that I don't like about proxies is the bad side of things, which is the counterfeits. It's not so much that it's an actual proxy, it's more of a counterfeit, because there are people out there making these quote unquote proxies as counterfeits. And when it comes to competitive play or anything like that, you have to own the physical cards. So
absolutely.
As far as proxies go, I think they're fine as long as they're not abused. And so
interesting that you would bring that up. So I'm going to tell you why this came up for me personally. And again, I've got a disclaimer running here at this point that this is not a personal attack on anybody. It's not meant to be. There's no simple answer to this. There's no one solution, I don't think, for this. But an example would be playing at the LGS and encountering somebody that has played or has proxied 90% of their deck. They have chosen every single card and fit every slot with perfect synergy throughout. So I play a few of these people, and I've never told anybody I won't play with them because they're playing proxies. But when they win, in the back of my mind, there's still that little voice that says, well, you didn't really beat me because you're not playing with the cards that are there. That's always in the back of my mind. More specifically, a situation came up at the local LGS where somebody's playing, they're playing their deck, and they turn over a dual land and somebody comments on it. It's like, oh, that's a dual land. It's oh, well, this is a proxy and stuff. I just made this so that my deck would work. And my instant reaction in that moment, I didn't say anything, but the instant reaction in that moment was, well, I'm just going to get up, go to the counter, grab a Sharpie, and I'm just going to write dual land on all of my, and that will mana fix me for the rest of the game. That was my gut reaction. And it's like, then I took a step back, further back, and I'm like, that's not me. Why am I upset? Obviously, there's something else going on here, so I need to talk about this subject. So I thought, who better to talk to than Captain Waffles? Let's see what he has to say about proxies and what he thinks about those. And just in general, just because I thought like, wow, obviously I feel more deeply about this than I've let on or that anyhow. So that was how this thing started. And I thought, well, let me talk to somebody that's played professionally, or at least played in tournaments and so on. And so actually we've jumped right into the topic. One of the things I should say is let's introduce yourself here, Captain Waffles. Who are you and why might I be talking to you?
So if you haven't caught who my name is, I'm Captain Waffles. So I've been playing Magic since 2002. I jumped into the competitive scene in about 2005, and I used to travel the GP circuits. I used to do the Star City games, any 1K, 5K, PTQ, anything I could get my deck into. That sounds a little dirty, but anything that I could get in and play and be competitive at. The only thing I haven't played in is a Pro Tour. I've gotten really close, but I've never played in the Pro Tour. And I've been to a couple big events and done pretty well. But the thing was, is I also judged for a while. I was in the judge program. Saw a lot of people who tried to pass quote unquote proxies as counterfeits and stuff in play. We did, it was a fun time. I created my channel 6 or 7 years ago, my YouTube channel. It didn't start out as a Magic channel. It was more of like a personal development type channel to help people with like different aspects of life. And then I've shared my life stories and other things just to keep it real. I'm a simple guy. I love to do things and have fun, and I just share it with people. So now that I've kind of, my daughter has gotten older and she's starting to play Magic, I'm starting to get back into it, be a little bit more competitive, start to get in some events to do some qualifying and things like that. I play a lot of Arena and play a lot of other games too, but Magic has always been near and dear to my heart for the last, 22 years that I've been playing it. So that's pretty much the gist of me.
All right. Well, I figured you would have some strong feelings or some opinions towards that, so I wanted to have you share those with us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, I'm a love-hate with proxies. So let me show you. These are some proxies that I own, and they are of the Power 9. Okay. So obviously these are for my cube. Okay. So I have a Power Cube, and a Power Cube is when you have the Power 9 in your cube. Right. And so because, that's over $100,000 worth of cards that I'm not going to go out and buy, but I want to have that experience with it. And it's for something super casual. I don't see anything wrong with having these proxies because I'm not going to a tournament. I'm not trying to sell or trade them to somebody as they are real cards. They're literally in my personal collection for something that is super casual, like cubing with friends or whatever at the card shop.
Right. And those aren't specifically cards you're playing because they're in the cube. Anybody has a chance of drawing those.
Correct.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. And they definitely do not have the magic back to them. And you can tell they are not even the same artwork or anything. They're completely different than the actual card for that reason. So they can be really determined that they are not real. Now, it's funny you mentioned the whole thing with Commander because our local game store, there is a guy there who owns multiple revised lands, and he proxies them because he keeps them in a binder, and we all know he has them. So it doesn't bother us if you're proxying cards. In our group, it's a rule of like, if you want to proxy lands, like I have this let me take it out of the sleeve here. Maybe it'll be better. I have a windswept heath here. Oh, that's probably not the best one. Let's try this one. There we go. There's a Blood Crypt, right? Okay. I own like 7 copies of Blood Crypt. Right. But the thing is I have them in like competitive decks and everything. And so rather than swapping them back and forth, I just have a proxy in the deck. And we all know, hey, we have Windswept Heath, we have Blood Crypts, we have a lot of the easy lands that are accessible. And yes, I do have revised lands that are also proxied for the Commander decks. But in our opinion, it's Commander. We're there to have fun. It's a Saturday. Nobody's winning any prizes. We're just there to beat up on each other with our Commander decks. And it's the mana bases that we proxy. I don't see any problem with that because we all understand, hey, rather than putting our, $700 worth of lands in, we all know we own them. Let's just put some proxies in. That way, if anything were to happen, somebody spills a drink or somebody decides to steal a deck somehow, we're not losing anything.
Right. So now, is that a hard and fast rule for the group you play with? Or is that you must own the card to proxy the card? Or
it's nice. It's nice when you know if they own the card or not. But to be real, like a volcanic island does not make the deck win. Okay. Now, if they're like the other guy who's proxying 90% of his deck, that's a little far. I mean, I get it if you're buying the cards and you've proxied it and you're testing it out. because
Right.
you want to see if that's what you want to play, and then
Right.
eventually you buy those cards. But if all you're doing is just proxying decks and you never buy any cards, that's, to me, that's like, okay, come on, like at least buy the physical cards. Because like Tom Bombadil, I've seen people proxy this guy. He's like $4. Like,
Right.
there's no reason to be proxying a $4 card.
Right. Well, I've heard the excuse, or I've heard the reasoning that excuse makes it sound bad or whatever, but I've heard the reasoning that, well, I shouldn't be priced out of this. I shouldn't be I should have the right to be able to play these cards and do this thing. And it's weird to me to hear people say that, because in my mind also, you'd be hard pressed to find another game where a person shows up with the game pieces for the game and is allowed to play them. Generally, it's like you can't play a game of chess and say, well, I showed up with 6 queens and 4 bishops, and this is the style that I'm going to play. There's nothing else like that. So that leads to a unique discussion, I think, as far as Magic goes, and then as far as Commander goes too, because really there's nothing on the line in a Commander game except arguably bragging rights, unless you're playing, in an actual tournament. And then, of course, there are rules against proxies and so on. So why are you going out of your way to make fake decks or proxy an entire deck or whatever? I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, so to be fair, comparing chess with Magic is like apples to oranges.
Sure.
But the reason why I feel that argument has some validity to it is because Magic has been around for 30 years. Yeah. And not to mention, some of the game pieces are almost unobtainable. So this will fall into my argument with Vintage, okay? So Vintage, I don't think you should proxy it unless you own the cards. And the only reason why I would say that you could proxy a Vintage deck is for the fact that you're playing, like, if you have the Power 9 in your Vintage deck, you're walking around with a house, literally.
Yeah.
And so I feel like for a Vintage tournament, if they were to say, hey, you have to show us you own the physical cards, but you can play with a proxy deck, I think it would be a little bit better for people that have those cards that would like to play in tournaments like that, but don't, because of the amount that their cards are worth. Sure. I mean, I can only imagine the mouths that are salivating to steal at a Vintage tournament. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not condoning that, but I'm saying, it wouldn't surprise me that there are people literally scouting those tournaments for stuff like that.
Right.
So that's why I feel like there is a fine line that proxies can be used for good, but majority of the time people are going to abuse things like this.
Right. Well, the other thing too is, when it comes to this, is the idea that that expensive cards leads to automatic wins. I think there is an argument to be made for, I generally tend or choose to be a budget player, because I do, for the most part, I do have, and maybe this makes me a hypocrite, like I said earlier on about playing this, because I do play proxies. However, having said that, out of the 30 plus Commander decks that I have, I can name the 4 proxies that are in there. And one of them is just because I'm lazy and I haven't found an emergency powers to swap out and put in the deck or whatever. When I put it together, I didn't have it, so I jotted it on a card and I put it in there and stuff. But so I haven't done, one of them is a Soul Ring. Before the Lord of the Rings set, a friend of mine had proxies made for our group. So we all had this, the one ring as a Soul Ring. Now, obviously, I own multiple Soul Rings. I could easily slip that out, but it was to play this cool artwork or whatever. And there's maybe 2 other proxies that I have, so I can name them specifically. So, so where do you draw that line? Like, is you have one proxy, are you a proxy player? Or if you have 12, 15 in a deck, does that, where does that line become?
I see what you're saying, and the biggest thing is like, how many commander decks did you say you have?
I said 30 plus, but it's 34 is where it's at right now, and I probably have 36.
Okay, so having 36 commander decks, that's 3,600 cards, okay?
Yeah.
For most people to have, and let's just say each one has a soul ring, because it should. That's 36 soul rings that you need, okay?
Right.
Now let's get into more expensive cards, like fetch lands and shock lands and other things like that. In my opinion, if you have four blood crypts, you own 4 actual blood crypts, but 17 of your decks need a blood crypt, I would not be mad that there's a proxy blood crypt in half of your decks, because realistically, it's like you only need, if you're somebody who plays any type of Magic, whether it be competitive, casual, whatever, F&M, and you play decks that need 4 copies of something, realistically, most people are going to have at least 4 copies of something. And if you're having that many commander decks, and you want to be like, here, I can show you I have a physical copy. First of all, I'm probably not going to say anything if it's a blood crypt. But second of all, it's like, if you show me you have the physical copy, I'm like, whatever. You have, I know you own the card, but you also have 36 commander decks. Now, me, I have like 4 or 5 commander decks, because I draw the line. I know that I don't want to sit here and try to
I'm not good at drawing that line.
Commander deck after commander deck. Yeah. So, I mean, I literally just picked this thing up at Walmart. It's
nice.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
One. I was surprised. It was sitting there for the $31, and it's like a $75 deck. So I was like, cool. But the thing is, like, I'll buy stuff like that, and then I'll either break it apart or I'll give it away or something.
Right.
Because I don't need, like, I physically can only play one deck at a time. And to be honest, like, I think for me personally, now this is for everybody, but for me personally, I'm like, I have like 5, and if I want to upgrade them, or if I want to get special art for them, it's easier than if I have 36. Yeah. And that's just my personal preference. So
for me, and like I said, I have 36 not because I am just trying to queue them. I'm not necessarily a hoarder, though when it comes to Magic, maybe I am. But the 36 decks have been accrued over time. I've been playing Commander since it was released as a format. I didn't play EDH before that or whatever, but when they started making the decks, I started getting them. I started collecting them. I started getting budget variations of it. And I absolutely have to admit that I am 100% grateful, because I personally I have 2 different local game stores that I can play at. There's 2 nights a week that I can play Commander. I get in an average of at least 6 games of Commander every week, where I know that some people are lucky to get maybe 1 or 2 in a week, if in a month. So I understand people not having that wide variety and stuff. And, people look at me and like, oh my God, you have 36 decks. How do you even play them? Well, I cycle through them pretty quick, because I don't like playing the same deck over and over. And I have those opportunities. And for that, I am absolutely grateful. So the other thing, though, is I choose not to play with generally a card that I don't have. I've never been interested in, and this is, again, just me, no condemnation of anybody else or whatever. I choose not to look at spoilers. I choose not to get excited about cards. And I've taken a while to get to this point, but I choose not to get excited about the cards until they're in my hand. And when they're in my hand, then I'm concerned with, what can I do with this card? Where does it go? Where should I put it? And where it generally goes is it gets stacked in a really big pile in the corner of the room, and it gets forgotten until I'm looking for something to sell, or I'm looking for something specific. Exactly. See, there you go. I've got probably about 5 of those within reach right now. There you go. Nice.
Yeah. I know the feeling. That's a Magic player's, desk. It's just
it absolutely it is, for sure. It's like, I don't know, I saw a meme some time ago where the person is like, did you just buy 4 more lightning bolts? And it's like, yeah, I've got like 18 of them, but I don't know where they're at right now. So we're always getting more. But anyhow, I'm getting off the topic or whatever. So I generally don't play with cards that I don't have. I never build a deck, and this is something else too. I never build to the specifications of cards to make a deck work. I generally make the deck work with what I have, as opposed to the idea of. And so when people tell me that they have the right to play with these decks, there's also a part of me, and this is just me personally, it's not a condemnation of anybody else, but I personally think in the back of my mind, do you have the right to play that deck? Or did you just go net deck it because you thought you got something that was going to be a powerful deck that's going to win? I don't know, because where is that line between the competitiveness of having to win the game to being able to play the game? Because I generally have, and this is an attitude that's changed over time, I don't have to win every game, but I have to have fun with the people that I play with. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? As far as, are you anxious to win, or is it a Saturday well spent if you're hanging out with friends?
Oh, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I always want to win. I'm a very competitive person.
Okay.
Like today, we won our softball game. It was our first win of the season. The
Nice.
other two games we lost, but the first one, I'm not going to lie, I was sitting there like just super frustrated, super just like, oh, not enjoying it. And I worked on that. Obviously, I'm working on that type of stuff. I'm dealing with 10-year-old girls, so it's like I got to be sensitive, even though I'm not. So,
I got you.
I'm super competitive. I want to win, but at the same time, like if I get beat by somebody because they did really well or whatever, I'm not going to throw a fit over it. Like they beat me fair and square. But there's that whole thing of like someone who's born with natural talent versus somebody who works for it and gets better and strives to be better and learn. There's those two paths. And usually people with like natural talent, they're and not all of them, I say usually, they can fall off pretty quickly to the people who are working harder because they don't have the natural talent, because they start to feel entitled. And I feel like some of these people who are proxying the deck because they feel entitled that they should be able to play that deck, they're going to hit a level of curve, like a learning curve that stops way before the person who actually puts the work in and works towards building something and actually being proud of what they're like putting together. And so
it's interesting. I like that.
I've always tried to get better at the game, and the best, one of the best formats to do that in is sealed, because whatever you get, and you have to work with that. So this last pre-release I went to, I won that pre-release on pure skill. My sealed pool was absolute garbage. Like I ended up building a black-white deck that had one rare in it, and I couldn't use any rare but one, and it was the Dust Animus. And I literally won all my games through skill of combat tricks and just maneuvering my pieces and my opponent's pieces into the right positions to give myself advantage, and being able to know the rules, know what cards I'm working with. So when you talk about somebody who's like, oh, I went out and even the people that go out and they're like, oh, I have a $5,000 EDH deck, and it's like, I've got a $20 one that'll probably kick your ass because I know how to play better than you probably.
Right.
And it's not to say that I'm better than everybody, but it's like I see a lot of these people who have just gone out and dumped money, and then they sit at the table and they don't even know half their combos or half their cards do. And so I've got another deck that I play. It's my giant middle finger deck is what I call it. It's mono blue Vindiclick.
Okay.
And it basically just tells you no. You can't do anything.
Gotcha.
It's got Ristic Study in it. It's got all kinds of good. It's got an infinite mana combo to where I can make infinite mana, draw my deck, and then tunnel vision everybody out of the game. So it literally just mills you out. And it says nice $5,000 deck in your graveyard. So
exactly.
It's not about how much money you spend or how entitled you think you are to proxy the cards. There's also the skill involved. I mean, I've talked about it with many other people. You can give the same deck to two different people, and the more experienced player is going to win 9 out of 10 times.
For sure. For sure. And I'm glad that you said that. That helps me put this into perspective. And that is too, that these people that are only going for the wins, that are only going to net deck, and only, I'm using all these trigger words, I shouldn't be using them, but there is going to be a certain level that they're going to reach that they're never going to get beyond because they're not thinking past it. And that's what happened with me. That's how I wound up becoming Tibalt's apprentice. I've talked about this before or whatever, but I got to a level or I got to a place where I was so frustrated with Commander that I was about to quit and just give it up because I didn't think I could win. I thought everybody else was outspending me, and I was just something that I couldn't be competitive at until I saw some budget decks and one channel in particular and stuff that doesn't exist anymore, but the budget MTG was just awesome and eye-opening for me to actually take a step back. And that's what I had to do, was take a step back and see that a well-crafted budget deck can compete with any other deck out there. Because when it comes down to it, doesn't matter how much money you've spent, doesn't matter what you've proxied, that spell can always be countered. And it can go straight to the graveyard and not do anything for you and stuff. A lot of money can smooth out that curve for you and make things easier. A good mana base will do that and stuff too, but it doesn't have to be an expensive card. It can be a budget solution, can come up to anything with any of the decks and stuff. So I think that's definitely the thing that I think we'll probably quit on that if that's okay.
Yeah, that's
thank
fine
you.
with me.
Thank you for spending the time with me. I'm absolutely going to have you on to talk more about those decks, about your budget deck, about various decks, about your deck building experience and technique and what have you, and for arena content too. Is there anything else that you've got coming up? You did your poll game and stuff. I'm sorry I couldn't participate. I was there in spirit and on the feed to join you during that and stuff. Some time ago you were beating me out of super fast his auction and such. Anyhow, I'm just giving you a hard time there, but what have you got coming up that you're working on?
You remember this guy, right?
Yeah.
So I'm working on getting a second pool game going. I want to try to give away a play booster box of Modern Horizons 3 for that one.
Wow. All right.
So the price will increase a little bit per pool.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of offset the cost of getting that and some other stuff.
Yeah.
But all the cards that were left over are what's coming into that pool game. So the textured foil Sheldred that never got pulled is still in there. And then this next time we'll be giving away the Ravnica Clue edition as well. So there'll be some good prizes on there along with the main, booster box on there. But yeah, we're giving away that Sheldred that I just flashed at you. At 250 subs. So if we can get up to 250 subs, we'll give that away. And then at 500, we'll give something else away. I haven't figured out what that's going to be yet. I did mention on another stream, and I'll do it again on this video, but that playmat behind me, that old Spellground playmat, if I ever hit 100,000 subs, I'll give that away. So
I've got one of those around here too. Oh my gosh.
It's got a lot of pro players on it. It's got a lot of artists on it. So I've had it since I started playing Magic, and it's traveled with me all over the US to GPs.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but cool. There's more content coming out. I mean, I'm always on super fast when I can and hop on MTG Roundtable when I can and things like that. But, just a guy who loves the game who's trying to share it like everybody else. So.
Well, I appreciate that. I've got all your links on screen right now and stuff. So there's a number of places where people can find you. I thank you very much for taking the time out to talk with us about Proxies and help me put that away in a little bit. So now I can move on and get back to playing the game and enjoying it.
Yeah, just think of it as like, for those people who are being the elitist entitled type people, just think of it as, you have a little bit more merit and integrity of, look, I understand that you want to play some of those cards, but building the deck, learning the deck, and knowing the skill behind the deck takes a lot more work than just making those proxies.
For sure. Absolutely.
So I mean, yeah, you might lose to those type of people every once in a while, but sometimes you just got to shrug it and just go, you know what? Who cares? You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks
Thanks
again.
for having me, man.
All right. Talk to you later.